Everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. Today is the 16th of February, 2018. And once again, I find myself leading off of this show complaining about people. And I don't want this to become a thing. If it does become a thing, maybe we'll make it a section, and it'll be called Stupid People on the Internet Said. The reason why we're starting off with this is that, I covered it in a couple of videos, the Habaco bankruptcy issue. It still maintains to be the most popular video I've ever made. I should have monetized it, apparently. It would have been something I would have actually made some money from YouTube from based on the amount of views that it's gotten. I know it brought a lot of people over to the channel, which was not necessarily the goal. It's not like, oh, let me talk about this semi-controversial thing and get subscribers, because really it didn't give me that many, but some of you were here because of it, so cool. The reason why we're discussing this is that somebody recently started a thread on Model Cars Magazine forum, because the magazine, that doesn't really exist in a technical sense anymore, about whether or not we're ever going to see that 34 Model A come back out. What if it just never comes back out? Honestly. Now, I understand what this round of convoluted, nonsense is about. When Revell put out its fourth quarter flyer, the 29 Ford reissue, the one that's going to have the 350 engine out of the 30 Ford, along with the 30 Ford's wheels, put into the 29, trying to suck you into buying a second 29 if you already had one of the original ones. Was announced for fourth quarter, and then it didn't come out in the fourth quarter, but then several things didn't come out in the fourth quarter either, and everything was at least 1 month late going into the beginning of this year. We didn't know about the actual bankruptcy thing, obviously, until after this had all started, so it's hard to tell whether or not the bankruptcy of Habaco affected Revell's ability to get the stuff here on time, or if it was an issue with manufacturing in China, because again, I mean, you are talking about shipping stuff halfway around the world. And, most of these places that all of your model companies get their stuff done at are sort of pay-to-play type of things, meaning, Revell doesn't have an injection molding facility of their own in China. They use a contractor, which means that you got to get in line, right? I want to contract to you guys, and we saw it even here in the United States. There's the place in West Chicago that is doing a lot of their stuff, like the Dodge Ram Charger and other tooling that was was never sent to China. The stuff they've reissued from the United States, they're using a contractor. They did not buy a facility in West Chicago and start stamping models out there. There's a facility there that did injection molding to their standards, and so they used it, right? And so when you use when you're a contractor, you've got to get in line. We want to do these things. When are you available to run this tooling? It's this, it's that. Well, if something happens and something runs behind, or the facility has to close for whatever, I mean, countless reasons. There's school districts that have closed because of the flu here in the United States. I mean, stuff happens. And no one is ever going to give you a day-by-day breakdown of a contractor facility in China that makes Revell's tooling. Sorry, you just ain't going to get that information. Not that it would be any of your business in the first place, but some people like to think that everything Revell does should be public knowledge, and they should, I don't know, run a daily blog of their operation, but be that as it may. There's that month delay in there, and sometime when that month delay occurred around Thanksgiving, around Christmas, they moved the release date of the 29 reissue to March, and then obviously the bankruptcy announcement was made. Everyone lost their minds, even though everything at Habaco is running de facto day-to-day normal until April, when the resolution to the bankruptcy case has to be made, and at that point, we can revisit the actual whole thing in another video, maybe, because we'll find out what's actually really going to happen to Habaco in terms of all of its little pieces, and what's going to be sold, what's going to be kept, or maybe something about Habaco as a whole. You never know. There's always the possibility that debtor and finance, they'll just, throw the board out and put in new management, and somebody will buy Habaco that way. But it be that as may, that's not the point. Recently, they, through Tower Hobbies or I think maybe Stevens has the list up as well if you know where to look for it. They leaked out because Tower Hobbies obviously is owned by Hobbico that owns Revell. The second quarter stuff, and we haven't talked about it here because there hasn't been an official announcement from Revell as to what the second quarter stuff is. It should be any time now. I don't think there's been an official flyer put out. And I told you back when it was right around when Hobbico did the bankruptcy that this was very under-inspiring announcement. It's like 4 or 5 things. It's all reissues, and it's just it is what it is in terms of that's sort of the indication of we don't know exactly what's going to go on here, kind of thing. And, they're just hedging their bets. They're going to produce some stuff. It is some stuff that is, at least from a time standpoint, time for reissue. It's not like they're just grabbing some random stuff. It is stuff that is 7 to 10 years old since the last time it was seen. There are a couple of things on there that I actually would consider purchasing. But it's not like there's no new tools or no modified reissues, whatever. Around that time, the 29 Ford got pushed back to July. And now that has become public knowledge. Enough people have seen that date move that this started this whole convulsing online, and it recently, like I said, appeared in this forum thread last week of, well, that's it. Revell's bankrupt. It's done. It's over. Revell Monogram. They're going away. Bye-bye forever. It's like, honestly, you guys do understand that this is, it's a business, right? I mean, they have things that they need to do, not in terms of finances, not even in terms of the bankruptcy, as there are other things they're trying to get out to the market that this kit, even if it does have parts from the other kit, is still a reissue, right? It's not a new toolkit. It's not a priority to get this 29 Ford back out, or the 34 for that matter. It's something that's going to happen over time. We don't know what is going on with some of the tooling that is taking place in China in terms of the runs. Maybe something was broken, maybe something needed to be fixed. One of the greatest examples of a tooling fiasco that rippled through Revell for an entire quarter was when they were going to run off the 57 Chevy convertible, right? That kit did not have the X-brace for the chassis in the tooling as it was going to be run. And anybody who knows Tri-5 Chevys knows that there is a giant piece of X-bracing welded to the chassis for stability on the convertibles. The part wasn't hard to find. It's sitting in the 55 convertible tooling, but nobody, when they were pulling pieces and parts from the Tri-5s, thought about the fact that it needed that piece, right? So they stopped production on that. I don't even know if some of those came out or not. I think there might have been a few that came out that didn't have it. There was another kit recently where it came out wrong and they had to pull it. It was the other 57 Chevy, the 150 that had the Bel Air side trim on it that had to get pulled and rerun. But anyway, 57 Chevy is not a good luck option for the folks at Revell. But anyway, the X-brace wasn't in the 57 Chevy. It was going to go to production. They realized it wasn't there. They had to go back, not necessarily to retool it, but to pull some tooling inserts out of the 55 to run off those X-braces, because it's the same chassis. It all fits together. And between that and one other little hiccup in the tooling, there was no fourth quarter release, no fourth quarter at all for Revell that year. Not in the sense that they didn't release things, because they did, but it backed up the work so much because they had to pull a piece of tooling out of the line that they're in at the contractor, right? Well, you can't. It's like the DMV. There's no skip seas. You can't go back where you were. You're going all the way to the back of the line again, and so. They had to try to pull things from that were going to be made later and try to run them sooner, and it caused basically a 3-month screw up with the tooling scheduling in China, where that year there was no fourth quarter flyer for Revell. All the fourth quarter kits were stuff from the third quarter that got run late because of this goofiness with this one piece of plastic shaped like an X. So it's hard to tell exactly what is going on in China with a particular tooling piece that maybe they had in place to run, but then they decided they couldn't because something was not right with it, or maybe somebody misplaced an insert and it's in a warehouse someplace. You just don't know what happened. You're just not going to know what happened. So why is the 29 now in July? I don't know. It just is. Deal with it. I mean, the 29 Ford is still available in some places. I mean, I know everybody goes crazy because there's somebody on eBay selling one for $200 here, $500 there, and they lose their mind. Oh my God, look how expensive they are on eBay. Arr! And it's like, there's people, trying to sell stuff for way more than it's worth on eBay every day of the year. Tens of millions of items. I mean, that's the shtick of eBay, is trying to find the cheap thing that everybody else wants to sell for more than it's worth. Because, everybody's watched, not Hoarders, but, Pickers and all those other shows, and they think everything old is worth money, regardless of whether or not it is. So, I mean, just whoosa, woosa with the Revell's going out of business. And I mean, this is literally where it went. It went to, it's been delayed. Well, they're in bankruptcy, so clearly they're never going to make it again. To, well, that's it. Revell, I'll be sad because Revell in Germany, or Revell Germany, Revell and Monogram are going away, and there's just, oh, it's going to be a sad day. It's not going away. I mean, I don't, like, I have an original 29 Ford, and I wouldn't buy another reissue anyway, just because I don't need two. That's, I like the Model A's enough to buy them, and I will build them probably sooner than later compared to some other domestic kits that I have. But if they don't ever make them again, I won't care, and probably neither will 95% of the people, because the 29s were easy to find. The 30s, okay, I can see your point there. They only ran the initial part of the run, then the forklift dropped the tooling, and oops, whoopsie daisy, and that's it. I mean, it's always a possibility that they ran the 29 Ford tooling with the 30 Ford engine and the things in there, and part of that was for the inserts that were fixed, and maybe the engraving wasn't what they wanted it to be when the test shot got here. Maybe parts didn't line up the right way because half the mold is new and half the mold is old, and the two halves don't meet. You just don't know what the exact scenario is, and I'm not going to speculate. I mean, throwing ideas out there, but I'm not going to sit there and go, well, from what I heard from my third cousin's forklift driver at Hobbico, the reason, because I don't know what the reason is. But the reason is not because of this bankruptcy. Because here's a very important thing to remember about how a business operates. A business's calendar year runs June to June, right? A fiscal calendar is a summer to summer thing. It is not a calendar, like what do we call this, a Roman calendar, but I guess it's technically what, a Caesarian calendar that we have now, where it starts in January and ends in December. Your financial year ends the end of June and starts in July. The next, the 2019 fiscal year for Revell will start in July of 2018. That's just the way the calendar works. I don't know who came up with that cockamamie idea. I'm sure it benefited somebody tunes of billions of dollars to make that a rule, but it's just the way it is. So right now, Revell isn't out of money. They're only halfway through their budget for the year. And I saw somebody say, well, that's it. There's no more new tools. There's no more retools. There's no more nothing. So that's it. It's just blah. Didn't we just get a modified retool of the Oldsmobile Cutlass G-body into the 442 F3X thing, right? And isn't there also a retool of the 69 Mustang coming out that has basically an entire new body tool in it, because that fixes the weird droopy front end that the old kit has? Huh. You see, when you're going to say stuff that's stupid, you really ought to read what you put out on the forum. Read it out loud to yourself. Think about how that plugs into the real world outside of the only thing that matters to me is model cars in this forum. And realize that you're saying a bunch of stuff that's completely and totally out of the mind insane. It's much like the 34 tooling was the sign that China was going to shut down Revell, but no other tooling was ever affected by that. It was just the one, which meant that it was damaged, and that was Revell's story, and that was what there was. I mean, Revell told everybody that it was coming back. I mean, if you were at NNL East and you talked to Ed Sexton, if you didn't talk to Ed Sexton, your fault, not mine. He said that they're coming back. They were gonna come back. They've been delayed for whatever reason. It could be the tooling for the 34 for the Ford itself. Could be tooling for something else. Maybe, I don't know, they got bird flu and shut the factory down for 2 weeks. You just don't know. Right now, guess what it is? It's Chinese New Year's in China. You ought to know that. It's a big enough holiday that's covered by the regular news media. Guess what? Nothing's going to happen this week over in China, regardless. If you happen to be trying to order something like Zoomon or 8181 or anybody in China, guess what? They're all on vacation and closed. They may not have said it, but they are. They're not there. I don't know what you guys expect. I mean, there's certain people that if you say something like, man, I wish they would release this next thing that's important to you, they tell you to shut up and be patient, and, you know, you're just trying to rush things and blah, blah, blah. But it always works out that when it's that thing that they're interested in, that the company went bankrupt because they didn't release it when I said to. Yeah. All right. So there was no new tooling announcements, or no new tooling announcements, no reissues announcements. It's that weird week in February where nothing really happens as far as kit stuff goes. I will say that the Studio 27 has their early part of February slate out, and the one new decal that they will be doing for February is in their carbon fiber line, and that is going to be a carbon fiber decal set for the Tamiya XJR 9 Le Mans Jaguar. Now, I realize that's an out-of-production kit. However, if you go buy it in Japan, like through Buyee or another one of the auction services that proxy bids on Yahoo Auctions, those kits are kind of plentiful and pretty cheap, really. Not so much on eBay. You know, you're purchasing it here in the United States. It's sort of a shot in the dark as to whether or not you could find one or what somebody might want for one. But as a rule, in Japan, these sell for like $25, so they're not that expensive. And remember, Studio 27 is based in Japan. They sell worldwide via their vendors, but they're making products for their home country, right? So XJR9s are plentiful there. Realize that this decal set probably will not fit the Hasegawa Jaguar XJRs because they're not, or at least the ones that are out right now, are not Le Mans bodies. They are the sprint bodies that were run in IMSA and World Prototype Sports Car Championship Series. A part of the XJR9's carbon fiber decal set, and it is a new decal set, by the way, not a reissue. They're going to reissue their photo etch set for it, so if you were looking for some detail up photo etch stuff, that is also coming back. In terms of the livery decals for this month, they're doing 4 runs of reissuing older stuff. One of it is for a 112, I believe, Honda motorcycle, race car motorcycle, I believe it's a Tamiya kit as well. They're also reissuing all of their 635 decals for the Tamiya 635 Group A BMW, which I showed you most of the last time we did an out-of-the-box thing because I just recently purchased them all. Apparently I purchased the last of them, and now they need to rerun them. So there's 5 sets of decals for that. They're going to reissue, I believe it's 5 sets of decals for the Alfa Romeo 155 DTM cars, which is a variety of decals from the early cars through the ITC cars. If you don't pay attention, don't care, you never heard this before, there are 2 different Alfa Romeo DTM cars from Tamiya. There's the red car, the Alfa Corsa car, and the Jägermeister car, which were an earlier body style, the 93 94s. And then there is the Bosch and the Martini liveried cars that were done for 1996, that were done when DTM merged with World Touring Championship and became the International Touring Championship, the ITC, which only lasted 1 season before DTM actually shut down entirely until the 2000s because of how crappy this idea was to merge the 2 race series together. And there are a couple of decal sets for that. So there's, like I said, 5 altogether. A couple of them are for the early cars, a couple of them for the late cars. Be sure you know what you're buying if you don't have those decals yet. And then they're going to also reissue, I believe it's 5 or 6. I looked at them to see if there was anything I didn't have, and then that was pretty much it. I didn't actually count them. Reissues of decals for the Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG GT3, the Fujimi kit. There are several very early decal sheets that I don't know that they're not available recently, but they're earlier 2011, 2012 seasons, and then they're doing 2 or 3 more recent decals that came out 2015, early 2016, so there's some stuff there that if you don't have those decal sets, you can go ahead and look at. I want to say the website off the top of my head, but then I would say the wrong thing, so let me go look at it real quick, because I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but yeah, it's studio27.co.jp, and then there'll be, you know, a big button up there that says new release, and it'll show you the PDF files for the month. But if you're interested in specifically any of those livery decals, so no new livery decals yet. There should be a couple more things towards the end of February. What those will be, don't know yet, but The early stuff, the new decal will be the Jaguar carbon fiber, which is cool. I'll probably end up buying that eventually, as well as one of the Le Mans cars, which, you know, I don't build Le Mans cars. I don't build Le Mans cars. And now I've gotten several Le Mans cars because of the carbon fiber decal sheets. What can I tell you? I'm a sucker for their carbon fiber. So we have several releases this week. A couple, three of them here domestically, and everything else will be overseas. On the domestic side of things, we've got a couple more of the round 2 kits for the month of February, and they are the AMT 1966 Ford Fairlane GT GTA. This is a reissue of the 1990s AMT kit, so it's new tool, I think 92, 93 or something like that. This is a straight reissue of that kit. It does not include the parts for the 427. That was a completely separate kit. While not a completely separate tooling, obviously it shares a lot of tooling, there's enough tooling in those two that combining the two would not be a feasible thing. Not to mention, you know, they would sort of be shooting themselves in the foot for a future reissue of the 427. But this does include, you know, the parts to make the GT and the GTA. The difference between the GT and the GTA was the automatic. So there is 2 transmissions included in this kit. One is a stick, one is an automatic. And has pad-printed Firestone wide oval tires. These should be the first time that these tires are available in a kit. So this is a new set of tires in the sense of being pad-printed. I don't think the tires themselves are new, but being pad-printed. First time we've gotten this specific Firestone tire pad-printed. Decals, I think they've said they've expanded them. I don't know exactly how, as pretty much the only decal that this car has is the white stripe that goes down the rocker panels on the side of the car. One thing to look for on this kit, if it matters to you in the detail sense, is that there are tiny little scripts for the front fenders. They go in the middle of that rocker panel decal, and they would say GT or GTA with different colored backgrounds, depending on whether it was an automatic or a manual car. The little script, little tiny little chrome piece, is only engraved one way. There are not 2 sets of it. So you can only really make a factory automatic car with the scripts. You can't make a factory manual. There's no GTA. They all say GTAs. Now you can probably maybe go in there and fiddle off the A. Or I'm almost positive. I didn't look. Somebody will tell me there isn't one after that, but I'm pretty sure there's a Model Car Garage photo etch set for that kit that may include the script for the GT itself. But just be aware for the accuracy, you know, hawks, that the rocker panel molding only exists for one of the cars. But other than that, like I said, it's a 1990s tool, so it's a newer kit. It's not one of the old 60s ones. Also reissued this week, the AMT 1957 Edsel Pacer. This kit it's been reissued a couple of times through the ownerships of Racing Champions, but it's only been done the one time. There are technically 2 kits for this that have been combined into one this time around. So this kit does include the fender skirts as well as the Continental spare tire kit for the back bumper. That was a separate Edsel custom at one point in time. That is the only thing that was custom about it. It's not like the 62 Pontiac or the 62 Thunderbird where they were really custom out there stuff. It was like just a Continental pack and some fender skirts. So that's all in there, everything all in one. I kind of like this box art if we're going to do new kits on old boxes, because the 58 Edsel is also a newer kit. When it was reissued, or when it was done originally, I should say, because I'm trying to see if it's sitting here in my line of sight. No, it's on the back side. It was done during the era where the real cars were on the box art. I almost said the real cocks were on the the real cars were on the box art. That's like 1994 through 1997, so it's a little newer than the Fairlane is, but again, it's brand new tooling. This is not old AMT tooling for like the 59 Edsel or anything else like this. This was all new, modern tooling at the time. So know that going in. There's always that weird thing about AMT kits, because what are they really? Because that's part of the reason why we started this channel 3 years ago, was nobody ever seemed to know. And then what the last domestic kit we've gotten a reissue of this week is the MPC Jeep Commando Mountain Goat. This is buildable several different ways. There are basically two sets of tires, three sets of wheels. So there are these wheels that are on the box art with the mags that are this big off-road ridiculousness. There are some what they call aggressive street tires. So there's some 4x4 street tire style things. I'm not exactly sure what tires are in there. I haven't seen one in real life to be able to see what the tires are going to be with that. I do think there is a kit review of one out on YouTube though, so you can probably go look that up. It does come with a regular flat hood. Technically speaking, I believe from the information I've seen, the engine is incorrect. It still has the Dauntless 6-cylinder in it, where this Jeep, technically speaking, this year Jeep should have had a AMC V8. The 6-cylinder is based on the original Jeep Commando that they did way back in the, I think it would be late 60s, that actually looked like a Jeep, but it had the old sort of Willys front end on it. That is the origin of this tooling, so understand that it is old. It is kind of a shame that they modified the tooling into this, but nobody thought about it back then. It was all just toys, and they were relatively cheap and whatnot, because it would be really cool to have that original Jeep Commando with the original Jeep front end that was like a police car, a service vehicle, and something else back, but they can't because it's permanently made into this nonsense. There's expanded decals in this as well. I think you could build it with a top or without the top, like it's showing here. There's a bunch of different little options there. It's probably one of the things I'll pick up. I gotta get one of those Jeep Honchos too. Anybody, by the way, who's looking for a Jeep Honcho, that was just reissued, last month, right? Or no, 2 months ago in December. Those have sold out. That entire run is gone. So if you are trying to get one of those and you see one, grab one. Now, don't panic in the, oh my God, Revell's bankrupt and they'll never be back. They're just sold out currently. They're on back order from the distributor, so you got to wait for some to come in. They're making more right now, which may be part of the reason why things have gotten delayed, because this was an incredibly popular reissue all of a sudden. I don't think they expected to sell the run out by any stretch of the imagination. So like I said, just woosah on the bankruptcy, but congratulations, guys. You bought out an entire Revell kit, and it's been a little while since that's happened, especially on a reissue. You see that on some new run tooling here and there, but it's been a long time since a reissue is sold out. And then everything else here is going to be from overseas. So we have 4 sets of wheels from Aoshima. These are the February wheels. These are all 19 inches. You have the Lowenhart LDS, the Kranzi LXZ, the Kranzi Borfus, as well as the Amistad. It's just in script and I can't read it in small. The Amistad Rotino. So these are all 19-inch wheel sets. They're all on various VIP car backgrounds there. It looks like it's 3 Toyota Celsiors and an old PG50 series Nissan President. That kit hasn't been reissued for a while, the Nissan President. I'd be surprised to see that pop back up at some point in the next couple of years as they put more and more things into the model car and two model car lineup. I think it's been reissued not that long ago as a VIP car, but before the reboxing sojourn that we're all on. Fujimi did 3 kits. Technically, it's 1 and 2 different boxings and then 1 reissue. The reissue is the Mini Kumamon version. Their new tool Mini is a snap-tight kit, so that's what this is. This was done as some sort of 100th anniversary shenanigans at the factory several years ago. This kit has been done before. This is just a reissue. New box art, but it is a reissue. It's designed for younger builders in the sense of being snap-tight. The graphics are vinyl applique rather than being decals, although I think there might be a small sheet of decals in there for like the gauges and stuff like that. It's a better new Mini than the Revell Germany kit was, but don't expect much more, being that it is a snap-tight kit. I don't know what else to tell you about this. Other than the fact that this kit represents the car that the thing was not. The actual 100th anniversary Kumanon Mini was a convertible. And they don't have a convertible kit, so they just made it out of the regular one. So, yeah, it's Fujimi for you. The new tool Fujimi kit is the Suzuki Hustler. The Suzuki Hustler is available either in Passion Orange or Summer Blue Metallic. This is, like I said, a new tool kit. This is a snap tight kit. You notice there's no paint as well. This is not pre-painted. This is very, very highly polished plastic. It is possible, probably, to do naked builds from these relatively easily. A lot of stuff you'd worry about, of course, would be mold lines, right? Well, the way these kits are constructed, you basically, if you have one of the Toyota Vellfire vans, you know how these kits are constructed. But for those who don't, basically you get a little Suzuki Hustler chunk, shaped chunk, and you build the entire front end onto it. The roof is a separate piece, and so is the tailgate area. So all of the traditional places that you would have mold lines, I mean, there's still mold lines on here, but they're going to be underneath the body panels themselves. The blue metallic, if it's really a metallic, and it's kind of hard to tell in the pictures if what kind of flake it has, or if it's just a light blue plastic. You always have the issues possibly having swirls in your plastic on a metallic. Although I think technically speaking, the Passion Orange should also be a metallic as it goes, because it's sort of that everything is orange in Japan thing that goes on. Because you say, why would you say that? Well, there's the lava orange the Toyota 86 has come in, and then there's also the orange that the new GTRs come in. I can't think what the exact shade is called, but there's two different metallic oranges right there. So metallic orange is a thing in Japan. But overall, they look like, decent little kits. I mean, they're going to be small. There are K cars, and this, being a sub compact, little tiny things. A friend of mine said it looks like a Mini Cooper and a Nissan Cube had a one-night stand, and this was the result. Not that inaccurate. But the only downside I see to these kits, looking at them, is the fact that there are no decals, or at least none that are shown in the instructions or in the pictures that I've seen. There is a large sheet of vinyl applique. That's a very kids thing to do, very Revell Wheels of Fire type of thing. The Vellfire van had a whole big chunk of vinyl applique, but it also had a very small decal sheet for the gauges and the logos, the Toyota logos and the wording and things like that. It was only about the size of like a box of matches, but it's enough to have a modeler who wants to build it on a more adult level be able to build the kit, paint all the chrome, or BMF all the chrome, however you're going to do all your chrome and stuff like that, and then just put the decals on for the Toyota logos and the Vellfire logos and stuff like that. I don't know if this one does, because the way the package is shown in the production shots, it's like, oh, here's the window masks. Oh, here are the because they do give you the option for window masks. Oh, here's the big vinyl applique, and then there's one of those little yellow sheets of paper that like Revell Round 2 uses to protect their decals. So I don't know what's on the other side of that. I don't know if there's because I would really like to have them have a very tiny set of decals just for the Suzuki logos and the Hustler logos and the gauge clusters and stuff like that, because otherwise you got to do all that stuff with the clunky vinyl applique. I know it's designed for new builders and to be, fun and exciting and for the youth market in that sense. Aoshima did a Suzuki Hustler on 1/32 scale snap tight earlier this year, and we didn't talk about it because wrong scale, but so this is 1/24 scale. I said the big sticker for me, and is it that big a deal? No, I'm sure I could find some Suzuki logos somewhere, on another sheet of decals or something. But I really, just so I don't have to steal decals out of something else, I hope there's decals in here that we just don't see. And then we have two reissues from Hasegawa to round out this week's episode. We have the Porsche 962C in the Advan livery from, I believe this is the 1989 Japanese sports car prototype series. What can you say? It's another set of decals. I don't believe that this specific Advan car has been done yet, so that's what this was about as far as the livery decals are new. Limited edition, as they always like to say with Hasegawa stuff. Some of it is more limited than others in terms of availability. I don't know how much, even the original 962Cs, the first like 2 or 3 boxes of them, they all sold out their runs because it had been a while since Hasegawa had to put their 962C out. At this point, this is like the 6th or 7th 962C kit, and there's another one coming in March, or maybe it's April. It's April. So you have to start being either a fan of either the World Sports Car Prototype Series, which was the European race series that they've done a few kits for, or the Japanese Prototype Sports Car Series, which was the Japanese Group C racing, which just had stuff like the 88C Toyota and the 89C Nissan and stuff like that. And then otherwise, do you need another one? I don't know. I mean, there's people obviously that are fans of the drivers and the sponsors and certain liveries and things like that. But yeah, it's a limited edition. But how else is it going to sell? I don't know. Well, it may sell fantastic well. And the other reissue that is also a limited edition is the 1/24 scale Lola LC90 Lamborghini powered 1/24 scale F1 car. This is another Agori Suzuki driven machine. This is basically the next year after the one that came out after the Zaxby disaster as far as the real car. These are full detail kits, so there is an engine and stuff in this kit. This can be built one of two ways, either to represent, I believe it's the 4th round race in Monaco, and for the life of me, I can't remember what the other driver's name is. And I don't think he podiumed the race, but he finished in the top 10, which meant that they didn't have to pre-qualify the car anymore. And then the car on the box art and the other build option for it is the last round at Suzuka, which Agori Suzuki did podium. He finished 3rd place in this car, and we talked about it when this kit was announced, and I think I might have mentioned it again in the February spot run video. Is the fact that that was I think it's the last time, and it was the first time since like the 1960s that a F1 race had been run and there were no Europeans on the podium. There were several. Obviously, Mr. Suzuki is a Japanese fellow, and the other people were South Americans. So it was a interesting little piece of couch trivia there on that one, but. It is it's the second of the 1/24 scale F1 cars, and they're going to do another one in April. And it'd be interesting to see if they do the 2 Ferraris, because they have 2 Ferrari F1 cars at 1/24 scale as well. So who knows what they have up their sleeve for 2018? We creep and crawl slowly towards the Shizuoka Model Show, so I'm sure we'll find out, a good chunk of the rest of the year's plans in May. So, anyway, guys, that about covers it. I promise we'll try to not rant about people's behavior online and all the time, but that was just since we addressed in 2 separate videos the entire bankruptcy thing. I just want to touch on that. If you watch this video, watch the videos, calm down, relax. You are informed, and you know that things aren't going to go sideways, at least not until April. And the worst thing would happen to Revell would be they get sold to somebody who doesn't appreciate it, I guess. I mean, it's a concern that makes money. They should have no problem finding a buyer for it if they sell it at all. Maybe they'll just sell all the non-performing RC stuff. And then here come the RC guys. What do you mean the non-performing RC stuff? All right, the non-performing toy stuff. I mean, let's face it. At this point, Hobbico owns a little bit of everything, and they can't really sell a little bit of everything. They need to focus on the stuff that actually makes them money, and a little less on trying to be all things to all people, because that tends to be what causes a lot of problems. I worked for a trucking company out of Indianapolis that through the years grew by acquisition rather than organically, meaning they went out and bought a whole bunch of trucking companies rather than just, hiring drivers and securing their own freight. When you buy a trucking company, you aren't buying the drivers, and you certainly, for the most part, aren't buying the junk equipment for the trucking company, because if you're buying a trucking company, guess what? That trucking company you're buying is pretty junky, right? So you're buying their customer lists, you're buying their contracts, you're buying their, the freight that they haul. And this company did that repeatedly over and over again for many years. At first it was kind of funny, and then it got a little dicey. And they just basically went away from what their primary purpose was, which was hauling freight from the United States into Mexico, and from Mexico out of back into the United States. They're one of the big NAFTA carriers. Actually, they were the first trucking company to ever send what they were known as interchange trailers, which is actually when you send the trailer, not the driver, but you send the trailer to Mexico loaded. Right? It used to be that you had to pick up, if you took a trailer to a border town and it was loaded onto a Mexican trailer, and then the Mexican driver took it across. They started doing interchange trailers, which now everybody does because it's just satellite tracking and everything being what it is. They just, you know, the U.S. driver drops the trailer on the down in somewhere along the border, and a Mexican driver just picks up the U.S. trailer and takes it lock, stock, and 2 smoking barrels across the border. It gets refilled, they bring it back, and then the U.S. drivers do the deliveries from there. That was their primary thing. That was their bread and butter. A lot of auto parts, obviously a lot of appliances and things like that. All the stuff that you would associate with being made in Mexico. And they went to, you know, trying to sell trucks to their drivers, and they, well, we want to have a flatbed division. Oh, we want to have a tanker division. And they just tried to make it too big, too fast, by buying other companies and getting into things they were not, reefer division, that they were not, you know, experts at, and consequently they really came very, very, very close to closing doors and going bankrupt a year ago this spring, right? So this has all happened in 2017. They basically sold off a whole bunch of the stuff, sold off a whole bunch of trucks that they just didn't have drivers for, scaled everything way, way back down. They were not in a bankruptcy situation the way Revell was, or the way Habaco is with their finances. They just basically restructured a couple of loans, got some operating expenses. And you know, it appears, at least from the outside, that they have, if not corrected and turned around, they've at least stopped the hemorrhaging, and probably take another year or two to see if they're really going to, you know, flourish again. But that, you know, that's my personal experience with the growth through acquisition into things that we're not experts at, but we sell this stuff, so why shouldn't we? That doesn't work. It usually doesn't work at all. And that's usually why things go south, and that's Habaco's issue. So, but what'll happen, we'll find out in a couple of months. But in the meantime, keep your pants on until otherwise. Anyway, guys, see you.